And we start with the Melbourne situation. They lost 3 in a row. Some people said they go through the season undefeated, and there's some off-field issues. And Stephen May would be, well, regretful tonight. Let's find out the fallout for that. First, we'll hear from Nathan Jones and then Lee Matthews on whether Stephen May is costing them.
As soon as I heard that, without even having spoken to anyone, I absolutely took offence. I was there, I lived it, and I was like, oh, surely not. And it hurt me.
Now, if it's true, being denigrated by a premiership-winning teammate is appalling. It is something I've never heard of happening, and if that did happen and Stephen May said the words that just denigrated one of the players who didn't get us selected in some shape or form, I mean, I find that appalling.
This is what it just continues to reverberate 8 days after the dinner at Entrecôte, which ended up in a fight, a punch-up between Stephen May and May-Melksham, is that I cannot find an AFL player or coach who has heard of this before, of players denigrating other players. Now, we'll listen to Kate Roffey in a moment, Craig. She denies that comments were made about towards players who'd missed the grand final. But there is no doubt, and Sam McClure did a bit of a line-by-line version the other night on Sports Day, Matthew, where he said that there was this, that's not the way, this is the way we speak in the ones, mate. This ones versus twos things. And I heard you on radio talking about it. I don't think you've ever encountered it, Matthew, have you, at Essendon? No. And this is the cultural problem. Is it a problem or is it just Stephen May? This is what we're going to see over the next few weeks.
And obviously he got suspended, but May-Melksham didn't, despite the fact that
he hit him. Yeah, that could change. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, well, we mentioned Kate Roffey. She was on radio today, the President, and addressed the issue, was on the front foot, and here's what Kate had to say.
And we've seen how much we need Maisie over the last 2 weeks. One of our best players is not playing this week because our leadership team have said it's unacceptable, Maisie. And the biggest penalty you can give to a player, and Maisie's happiest place is out there on the field, the biggest penalty they can give him is to say, sorry, mate, but you're not going to play no matter how much we need you. So that's what I talk about, the culture.
Has it been discussed whether Stephen May needs a drinking ban? No,
I certainly haven't discussed it.
So is that something that this leadership group that Kate Roffey is putting an enormous amount of belief in, is this something they just have to do?
Well, I think that's the faith they would have in this playing group, because they won a premiership and then they'd won 17 in a row. It's sort of, in a sense, we'll leave it to you because you're good at what you're doing and you've been successful. Now it's got out to 3 weeks in a row, Kane, that they've lost and they're being overrun. It's interesting that they're starting games really well but getting overrun. Then you have to start asking yourselves, why? Are we as fit as we need to be? Is it game style? Is it our lifestyles? They're all the questions now that maybe off-field administration might start to take a little bit more charge and go, OK, we trusted you as players, but now we're not really getting the response on-field we'd like.
Are you entitled to tell someone, hey, don't drink anymore?
Yeah, of course you are, Hutchie. And this is the history of Stephen May, and it is largely related to alcohol. I mean, a lot of these issues that have come up since he's been in the system are alcohol-related. In fact, find me one there that isn't, apart from the fitness issues, but you could certainly link that. So if
you would tell him that in the leadership group?
Absolutely. I'm really surprised that he hasn't this week come out and said, look, I'm at least going to have a ban from drinking. Now, whether that's for the rest of the season, whether that's until the end of the finals, I don't know. But if you're a footballer, Lordo, who is having struggles kicking for goal, you work on it. If this is your Achilles heel and issues keep coming up in relation to that, well, then you address it. You're an elite athlete. And I'm surprised that Kate, to your question, didn't say that it's an issue, and I'm surprised Stephen hasn't addressed it himself by now.
I know players have to have lives, but 8 nights out from such a big game, when Stephen May is under concussion protocols, it staggers me that they go to a private room in a really expensive French restaurant, that's fine, with wine experts giving them wine selections to try, and nobody has the guts to say to Stephen May, Stephen, you shouldn't be here and you shouldn't be drinking. What were they doing there in the first place, drinking, when one of among them is banned from drinking?
And as an aside, amidst that list, he was made Gold Coast captain in the middle along the way. Melksham, we mentioned before.
Well, the AFL Integrity Unit is still investigating this, as they are Bailey Smith, who we'll talk about in a moment. But I say again that I don't see how he escapes suspension. I know Kate Roffey again put her faith in the leadership group, and clearly all that penalty was around the fact that Melksham stood up to May and was potentially even defending himself, and maybe Stephen May threw a punch and it missed, I'm not sure, and he was defending himself. You cannot punch a bloke so badly that you have to have 2 hand operations, and obviously there was infection, etc., and not be suspended. You can't punch people anymore. It's just beyond the pale to me.
It just shows what the version of events must have been like from the players to say how out of line Stephen May was. The player who threw the punch, cuts his hand, gets infected, nothing happens to him. Just shows how out of line Stephen must have been on the day.
Kate Roffey did not rule out today challenging an AFL ban.
That's extraordinary.
on Jake Melksham, which I was surprised by.
He's not going to, hasn't played in the seniors, probably wouldn't have anyway. So no harm in suspending him and putting the same precedent. And if you were Stephen May's manager, you'd say, hang on, we put our hand up, we cop our whack here, but how does the guy that hit us not suspended as well? So those little frictions can just creep in. It's been a remarkable week for Melbourne. There's continual leaking of information into an era before they got hot. And this was part of it last week with Gil McLachlan's private exchanges among it, Cara.
Yeah, and the AFL and Melbourne, or the Melbourne of today, are suggesting these conversations are very one-sided. But this is Richard Goyder, the chairman of the AFL. My instinct is this is a very serious matter needing serious attention and a rapid response. McLachlan agreed. There are 2 things here. One about his health. We're talking about Simon Goodwin and well-being, and then a broader reputational issue, including his ability to do the job. That's Gillan McLachlan. You can imagine
that
how...
was 15 months ago.
These two, it was last February, last year, 2021. And the discussion was around Simon Goodwin and his ability to do the job. And there were 2 people in that from Melbourne. One was the former chairman, Glenn Bartlett. And there was a discussion around whether Simon Goodwin was going to be removed. Now, extraordinary that these were transcribed somehow and that they've gone to the media. You know, great story for Mick Warner, etc. Whoever has done this, you think it's going to be difficult for them to have any credibility. I mean, I don't know if it's any of the people in the conversation or someone else got hold of the conversations. But Simon Goodwin, my understanding, is privately very frustrated by this, and he made some comments last week about it. His reputation's being besmirched, and because he's trying to be the better person, he's not saying anything, and neither is the club.
And he feels he knows who it is, and he can't say who it is, and that frustrates him, and he's wearing continual kind of series of paper cuts.
Ugly stuff, isn't
and they
it?
might continue, who knows. Kate Roffey was asked about it today, and so too was the senior assistant, Alan Richardson.
It's disappointing that we live in a world where, you know, things are being unknowingly recorded, things are appearing in private conversations, but that's the world we live in. I don't need to defend them. They don't need defending. We are supported, we're united, and, you know, like I said, we're not going to buy into this ongoing rhetoric and bringing up of things from the past. We are so far away from that time as a club that, you know, we don't even understand why it keeps coming up, really.
I just don't get it. I find it incredibly disappointing. If we could just talk about the bloke that I work really closely with, Simon Goodwin, he's an outstanding person. He's had to cop a fair bit. You know, the advice is not to say anything, and that's bloody challenging. It's starting to get a little bit laughable now, to be honest.
2 things, Matthew. One, how strong Gary Pert was in defending the coach, and really what a hero he's emerged as the off-field player, or one of them, behind the premiership. And the other, that Melbourne are bracing for more. And they do so against a backdrop of now having lost 3 games in a row. And today's was an unbelievable game, unbelievable atmosphere.
It's amazing how I think when you're losing games, this just gets magnified. They need a win, and this wouldn't be as big as it was. It's just like Richmond last year, Cara. There was, was it the year before? Questions on their character everywhere.
Yep.
What's their culture like? They're able to win, and that snuffs some of this out. So, Kane, another loss today.
Yeah, and the issues were in relation to their forward line structure again, and the way that they're transitioning the ball inside their forward 50. So they only took 6 marks inside 50, Lordo. And I feel like when they were struggling, Melbourne, prior to the premiership, we spoke about this a lot on the show. So that lack of connection and cohesion going forward. Collingwood took 23 intercept marks. We're seeing a lot of those here, and their forward line was largely uncompetitive with the tools they've got there. Now, Gawn was massive last week forward, his ability to hit the scoreboard, but he was injured today and clearly saw Mitch Brown, Ben Brown, Wiedemann playing VFL, Fritsch not having the impact, Pickett certainly not having the impact that he has in the past, and not helped by scrappy entries like that we saw repeatedly today.
I think their effort is pretty good, so that's where I've seen some teams who don't put in an effort. I think Melbourne's effort is pretty good. It's the execution that's hurting them.